Hello everyone, TLSG here, back again with another Marvel Snap video. Following up on our Beast build, we do have 7 more Collector's Reserves to unlock, and we should be able to get a card out of that. I'm not going to go on a long spiel today, but thank you guys so much for all of your support and just continuing to come back and enjoy the content. So let's go ahead and start pulling our reserve. So we didn't have to pull very many. We do get Venom here. So Venom is one that we've been missing for quite a while. Venom on first look is a little bit tough to use. Venom on reveal, destroy your other cards at this location and then add their power to this card. So add a 3-cost card. This seems a little bit tough to use, but in at least a handful of decks, he can be an absolute unit as long as you're not running up against Shang-Chi's. And if you are, I'm so sorry, Venom, you're going down. But guys, that was one log apart. And I think it's because I'm so deep into the collection log that all of the bad luck protection has made my cards come more consistently, because this one wasn't too far apart either. It was about 4, and then this one. So with this, I have a few ideas in mind. I am going to go ahead and jump over into the deck build and see what we can get going. All right, so we did end up building a deck, and I know it's a shirt change. I recorded the pool, and then I didn't end up being able to record the deck draft, any of the games at that point, so we just picked up where we left off. But we did end up building a deck, and what we wanted to do was lean on one of our previous deck lists that we thought Venom would be pretty good in. So for the Typhoid Mary and Red Skull deck that we built, where you want to zero out one of those abilities, copy it with Taskmaster late game, we wanted to lean in on that. So then what we did was we built most of the bones of the deck. So we copied over the Zero, the Maximus, Typhoid Mary, Taskmaster, Red Skull, and then of course our new card in Venom. And so then the rest of the deck list came down to what else can we add in that will add value. And so we knew that with Venom, we wanted to kind of lean into the destruction a little bit. So then we added in Nova, Bucky Barnes, and Carnage. One that felt pretty good, where usually it's just okay, is Sabretooth. So Sabretooth, once he gets destroyed, he's going to return to your hand. Usually you don't get a whole lot of upside because you already paid that 3 energy to play him onto the board. So destroying him, what benefit are you getting out of that other than just having a free card to play on the last turn? But with Venom, if Venom eats Sabretooth, he's going to absorb that power, but you're still going to be able to redistribute that power back onto the board. So then the last 2 slots, we had to try to experiment a little bit. Initially, we wanted to run an Arnim Zola, which you'll see in the very first video. The very first video here, we had the wrong deck list. We had Arnim Zola there instead of Wolverine, because we initially thought Arnim Zola was going to be pretty good, but it turns out that this deck list has so many late game, last turn power pushes that Arnim Zola just felt clunky. A lot of times you're wanting to play your Red Skull on turn 5, your 0 Red Skull, or your Red Skull on 5 and then Taskmaster on 6. Trying to fit an Arnim Zola in didn't feel like it was a great value. And so we ended up scrapping that for a Wolverine, which is going to be similar to our Sabretooth, in that when it gets destroyed, that power level is still going to stay on the board. So whether that be with a Carnage or a Venom, that power is still going to stay on the board, and it can give us some potential upside in locations like Sanctum Sanctorum, where it might bounce over into that lane to give us even more upside. And so then the last slot, we chose an Enchantress. So we were back and forth about this slot. We really considered running something like a Hulkbuster to absorb into like a Wolverine or absorb into a Sabretooth before it got Venomed, but it just felt too niche. Like some of the times it would be a good card, but a lot of the times it would just be there. And so with Enchantress gives us a second opportunity to cancel out our Typhoid Mary, our Red Skull. So let's say we don't draw into Zero. We don't draw into Venom to eat and absorb Typhoid Mary or Red Skull. How do we keep that power level? How do we offset those abilities? So we added in Enchantress. So that gives us 3 chances to offset ongoing abilities that we don't want. Plus, Enchantress gives us the utility to try to cancel out one of their Devil Dinos, try to cancel out their Iron Man. And most people don't run Enchantress very often. It gives us that play that's not anticipated. And so this deck list wasn't all my idea. All but the last probably 2 cards I came up with, I had the structure. I was playing around with different ideas for the final 2 slots. And in between theory crafting, I was on the Marvel Snap Discord. A user named Kraken Null, which I think we've played in a few of our videos, posted this deck list. And to my surprise, it was very, very close to the bones that we had built. And the few sub cards made sense. So locking in the Wolverine, locking in Enchantress, felt like really solid cards and a really solid deck list. So the last couple of cards were influenced and kind of locked in with the help of Kraken Null from their deck list. So with that being said, we ran through the general idea of the deck. What we wanted to do was give the most opportunity for a large Venom to be able to play our Typhoid Mary, Red Skull, or Taskmaster consistently for a high power output, and be able to offset those ongoing abilities either by Zero, Enchantress, Venom, to make sure we don't have that negative ongoing effect, and we can keep the positive power upside. And so with that being said, we are going to go ahead and jump into a few games. I hope you guys enjoy. Okay, so first up we have Kozak, and in our starting hand, we have Nova and Carnage. We're gonna go ahead and drop the Nova. We're gonna hold on to Carnage for now, and so they end up getting our Venom, which is one of our big proponents to stopping our like Typhoid Mary or our Red Skull, like the negative effect of it. But we do get lucky in the Death's Domain being the middle location. And so maybe we just drop our Carnage outright. I think we wait one more turn to see what we draw into. To see if maybe it's like a Sabretooth and we do want to destroy it. And so start Tower after turn 5, and so we did draw into Sabretooth. And I think that means that we're going to end up dropping our Red Skull and not our Typhoid Mary here, because we're going to be able to zero out one of the cards, but not both. And so if we draw into Taskmaster, we can have our Red Skull here, and then we can use our Taskmaster here. Beautiful. And so what we can do now is we can drop our Carnage followed by a Zero. That will leave us, that'll bring a 0 cost Sabretooth back into our hand. Next turn, we're going to be able to drop a zeroed out Red Skull first, and then we can drop our Sabretooth here, followed by on turn 6, dropping our Taskmaster here. And so they drop an Ironheart, which buffs up their cards, which is okay. And then a Mantis, which the on-revealability would not trigger with the Mantis, but I'm guessing just wanted some additional power out onto the board. And so then we do have our Zero here. We are going to follow the play line that we brought up and do the Red Skull. Even if they have like a Shang-Chi, it's not going to be able to target our Red Skull here. Oh no, we meant to play Sabretooth. So we meant to play Sabretooth here, which would have gotten the additional 2 power bonus. It would have been, actually no. To be able to do our Taskmaster, we couldn't, because we need Taskmaster to be the one that follows Red Skull, and so we couldn't. It wouldn't have been something we would have been able to do. So we can go ahead and do a 14 power card here, which then this becomes 25, which exceeds here, and then we could do another 4, and so then they would have to compete and flip these 2. And so we would end up winning that game more often than not. And since their Thor didn't throw a Mjolnir back into their deck, it really limits what they're able to do here. All right, and so next up we have Y2J, and oh shoot, we need to update the deck list. And so we have Wolverine instead of Arnim Zola in our deck list. We updated it. We tried running Arnim Zola, but he felt too inconsistent. And so we decided to stop running him. So we need to update our deck list, but we are running against humans now. And that may not mean much to you guys. You didn't feel the pain. I've been playing for like 6 hours today, and probably 5.5 hours of that 6 hours have probably been against bots. And we finally figured out what was going on. We needed to update our game. So we were running the older version of Snap. They pushed a patch today, and we hadn't updated it yet. And because we hadn't updated it, we were facing nothing but bots. I assume we were only going against people that had that same version. We could have avoided a lot of frustrations, but unfortunately we did not. And so with this location, I would like to destroy our Sabretooth here. I would like to like drop a 0 or something, but I think we just go with the Carnage and then the 0 here. To get some guaranteed power onto the board. Depending on what we draw into next turn, there's a good chance we either have a Maximus or a Typhoid Mary, or something that would get the benefit from having our 0 on the board. And then we get the really good upside of the Wolverine Destruction jumping into the Sanctum Sanctorum. Ooh, and what a nice use of Maximus there. Because we are shuffling our hand into our deck and then drawing 3 more, they knew that that on reveal wouldn't necessarily matter. So very good use of him there. So we can drop our Maximus, and then we can also drop our Nova over here just to have him on the board. But we're going to be able to destroy this lane with our Venom. If we draw into like our Taskmaster, then we'll get some upside. Maximus, of course, was zeroed out, so they're not going to draw the additional cards there. And so we do draw into our Taskmaster, just beautiful. And so we want to make sure that Venom is the last card we dropped at the end of this turn. So we're going to drop Bucky Barnes first, just to have him on the board. 1 extra power is 1 extra power. I'm never going to turn that down if we have the extra energy. With Venom, he's going to eat this lane. It's going to become a 15 power Venom. We can then drop our Taskmaster as a 15 power Taskmaster next turn, and hope that that's enough to swing these lanes. It may not be enough, but this is our best shot. We do have a solid lead in the Sanctum Sanctorum, so unless they can push power over into the Sanctum Sanctorum, we should be able to win one other lane and have the Sanctum Sanctorum locked down. And so they do drop a card in Nova Roma this turn. The only thing I'm potentially concerned with or worried about at this point is a Shang-Chi. Well, now I'm concerned about an Infinite. And so 15 power here would put us in the lead. So let's say they have the Infinite that they resummon. They can't resummon him here. 4 power here. That leaves 2 additional energy that they could drop something like a Hell Cow maybe? Do they have a Hell Cow? So 15, 16, 17, 18. We have 18 power currently. If they drop anything additional into this lane, we lose. Maybe we double up. So 20 plus the 4 from Ghost Rider, or 3. So 23, 24, 25, 26, that puts 27. So it depends on where they're going to drop the resources. Do we think they're going to drop? So it all comes down to a read. Do we think they're going to drop in Nova Roma or not? I think they are, knowing that our Venom is a high power. If they're playing heads up, they know that we have a Taskmaster or could potentially have a Taskmaster to play. They do drop into Nova Roma. Okay, so this, I guess, is a Ghost Rider. Okay, good. So 23, we outpower them here. And then this was a Mr. Sinister, which would have pushed their power level up over what we would have gotten with our Taskmaster. Guys, that was so close. So close, but so very, very satisfying of a win. I think I'm going to enjoy this deck list. All right, so next up we have Jareth. And in our starting hands, we don't have a great play line, but it's not terrible either. Nidavellir is really, really good for Venom. We're able to drop Venom. Venom will actually absorb the +5 power in that lane, so then we can have a really large Taskmaster following it as well. And so that's what we're going to try to shoot for this turn or this game, and just hope that we draw into our Venom naturally. If not, it may be a little bit difficult, but that is what we're going to shoot for and see if we can make happen. And so we do have our Sabretooth here that I think we will drop as well into Nidavellir. Wolverine would be okay because it would bounce, but having a free drop that we can direct as needed, I think may be a little bit more versatile going into turn 6. And so they do have a Collector, they do have Morbius, so they're looking at discarding several cards here, I imagine. We have one more turn to draw into our Venom. I think we go all in. We lean all the way in. We use our Typhoid Mary here, which is going to, of course, have the ongoing ability that it reduces all of our other cards by 1, and we don't draw into the Venom. So we have to kind of audible a little bit. So we're going to be able to play a Taskmaster. We could play it in the Gila, but we're going to play it in the Danger Room. If we're already gambling, let's gamble. there's a 25% chance that we retreat after this turn. And then if we get the lucky upside and we draw into Venom, we'll be able to destroy this lane, get the upside from it. Okay, and so our Taskmaster did not get destroyed. So they discard a Wong and a Leader here. And then with Swarm, or with Moon Knight, they discard Swarm. So their Collector does get the upside there. It makes us discard our Enchantress, but that's okay. No, why? Okay, so we did not get the upside from Venom. Okay. Okay. Little did they know, we did not have a great way to finish that game off. I'm guessing they didn't either. But we were thinking about something like a 0 and then using our Maximus, or just some kind of combination, maybe Wolverine into Carnage. I don't know. We didn't have a great play line, but fortunately, we were able to get our Taskmaster to stick here. All right, so next up we have Nimskull, and the first location is Washington, D.C. So if we do decide to zero out a card, whenever we drop it into Washington, D.C., it will get the +3 power bonus. And so then if we absorb that with Venom, we can hold that bonus. Then we can duplicate it with our Taskmaster. We have a couple of good play lines or potential upsides here. So we do drop our Nova. Depending on what we draw into, we will determine what we do this turn. We would like to have something bigger like a Maximus, a few other cards, so that Venom will absorb that bonus on all of those cards that he eats. So I think we actually wait one additional turn here. We do have the benefit of having the super flow, so we can play into our cards a little bit earlier than we normally would. So having a little patience, I think, is okay. So the last location is Nova Roma, and so that's going to give us some pretty good play potential. And so we have some pretty large cards here. So we can do a 0 into a Maximus. Next turn on turn 4 we can do our Typhoid Mary. Turn 5 we can do a Venom, and then turn 6 we can drop a Taskmaster, and it will be a very, very large Venom and a very, very large Taskmaster. And so with this 0, I think typically we would snap at this point, because we are pretty confident, unless they have like a Shang-Chi, we're pretty confident that we'll be able to have enough power to win 2 lanes. But with that being said, we have been playing bots consistently, and we don't want to run Nimskull off. So we're going to drop our Typhoid Mary this turn. Next turn, we will drop a Venom. If they drop an armor, I will probably cry. You'll see a grown man cry. It has been rough out here today, and so we do have 6 energy we can use. We can do something like a Venom here. Venom needs to be the last card that we drop, so we can do we drop a Bucky Barnes and then a Venom. Next turn we're going to have 7 energy, so we'll be able to do a Taskmaster first and then a Carnage to create like an 11 power lane here, and we have the big like 21 power lane here and here to give us a pretty good chance at winning. And so we are going to lock that in. If an armor comes down after we destroy our cards with Venom, that's okay, because we have initiative, so we will go first here. And then they have Dracula, so we have to kind of worry about what they have. So maybe it's an Infinite, and if so, then it becomes a little bit difficult to figure out where we need to play. But unless they flood the board here, they're not going to be able to discard exactly what they need. So we do drop our Venom. It does end up eating all of our cards. He will get the bonus from Nova and then become a 24 power Venom. So very, very nice. They do discard a Swarm, which buffs up their Morbius and their Collector here, which isn't great. So really all that dropping Carnage is going to do for us here is cut how much we're losing this lane by. So we are going to drop our Taskmaster here, followed by our Carnage. We can't drop Carnage first in this lane so that we have them both. So we just have to hope that 24 power is enough in these 2 lanes, but I really don't think it's going to be. I think Dracula is going to end up swinging this Washington, D.C. location because they have a few Swarm cards. I don't think they've discarded their Apocalypse. even at the, I guess at the base power of 8, if they have a 3 power swarm, then that is enough to come up over us by 1, which will be pretty unfortunate if that's the way it plays out. Ooh, so they drop all of their cards into the Superflow, and they leave nothing left. They leave nothing left to be grabbed by Dracula. And so if we can win the left lane by more than they win the right lane, we win. We win Washington, D.C. by 10. They win Nova Roma by 9. And I honestly didn't even think about the fact that we could drop our Taskmaster into Washington, D.C. to double up the power there, because we knew we weren't going to be able to win Nova Roma, so we knew we had to play it in a different lane. So had they dropped a swarm here, finished the rest of their swarms, and let Chavez be absorbed by Dracula, they would have won. It's very, very close. Very, very close. Okay, so next up we have DT Rush. And in our starting hand, we do have Taskmaster and Red Skull. So maybe they're running a Thor, Jane, Odin deck, and they just happen to draw into 2 of their 0-cost cards right off the bat, which is kind of unfortunate. But we are going to go ahead and drop our Wolverine here. We don't have anything to lose by dropping him into Washington, D.C. So then they have a Sentinel. What kind of deck are you running, DT Rush? And then we have our Sabretooth, which is going to benefit from being destroyed as well. If we can draw into Venom, Carnage, both would be beneficial here. Oof. And then with their Polaris, they pull over one of our cards. So they pull over our Wolverine, which we don't want to have Wolverine in that lane. We would have rather absorbed him with our Venom. But we are going to use our our Typhoid Mary here. Oh no. Oh no. So they hit a Cosmo into our Typhoid Mary lane. So we're not going to be able to absorb Typhoid Mary any longer. So what we may do instead is drop our Red Skull into the negative zone. And then we can either follow that up with a Taskmaster to copy Red Skull's ability. We can follow it up with an Enchantress to block out his ability. But having it over here, we could do a Red Skull. If we needed to do a Venom to cancel it, we could. And then we'd still have enough energy for Maximus as well. I think we do that instead. And then we can always push the high power play over into the negative zone with our Taskmaster. Oh. I didn't know how we were going to win, so I'm okay with that. I guess just the amount of power output. So they would have had to have 5 power here. Really any drop here would have been fine, so another Sentinel. But then if we had done a Taskmaster here. Okay, so I'm not sure what happened that game, DT Rush, but I will take the win. I'm guessing the deck tech that you were running didn't pan out. Maybe we will take a win where we can. All right, so next up we have Gus, and the Shadowland being the first location. If we are going to Carnage a lane, that's our primary lane. But if and we discard our Taskmaster, they discard a Rogue. Not great, but it does look like we do draw into Carnage here. So maybe we play under the assumption that we're going to Carnage here. We can then on 4 drop our Typhoid Mary wherever Wolverine is, to then bounce him, destroy him, and bounce him again. I think that's okay, depending on what we draw into here. And so we draw into a 0 here. So what we can actually do is do a Carnage, and then where do we think Wolverine is going to bounce? It's a guessing game. I think he's going to bounce back into Shadowlands, but for all fun and games, we are going to place 0 into the vault to potentially target our Typhoid Mary there next turn. And then if he bounces over there, I can't. Okay, so do we want to do our Typhoid Mary there? And so there's only a couple more turns that cards can be played in that location. We don't have a Taskmaster, so it's not going to really benefit us from venoming this entire lane. Maybe we do, and then we hope for like a Red Skull that we can play next turn. And he has a Killmonger, which kills our 0, unfortunately, but that's, I think, okay. And so here we don't have a great play line. And so if we drop our Maximus, then they will get additional cards. I think what we do instead is we drop maybe our Enchantress into the vault. We want to try to make sure that we are winning this location. And they do have Nakia, so all of their cards have been buffed. Oh no, my gosh, it would have been better to hold it. And then we could have Iron Manned into Sokovia, but instead, alas, we do not. So what we're going to be able to do this turn is push some power. We're going to avoid Sokovia because of the higher chance that they can do some pretty cool things. But Venom would be nice to absorb this lane, but Sabretooth is actually going to give us 3 additional power compared to our Venom. So we're just going to do that and hope that they drop pretty large resources into Sokovia. They may or may not, but I think this gives us the best shot. So Mystique, oh no! So they copied the Iron Man, and they very, very nearly come up over our power level with just the Killmonger Mystique. That card, Mystique, is one of the last few cards that we're really looking forward to pulling. That, Wong, and then a few of the other ones that are still there are good, but Mystique just seems so versatile. And so that almost was enough to push us up over. If we didn't have such high power cards that are pretty low cost, they would have absolutely won in that scenario. All right, so next up we have Valshock. And in our starting hand, we have Zero, Carnage, Sabretooth, Typhoid Mary, but we don't know if we're going to want to. We don't know what we want to target with our Zero, so we're just going to hold it for now. Most of these games, we are going to skip our turn 1, just because we aren't running a lot of low drop, low cost cards, and so we can do something like our Nova. And then we hold our Zero still. Next turn, we can do a Sabretooth here, and then follow it up on turn 4 with a Carnage, which will return it to our hand. It'll be buffed up, and then we can redistribute it and drop it as needed. And then 1-cost cards can't be played into Hellfire Club, so that is potentially impactful. So on turn 4, we'll probably drop our Carnage and then follow that up with a Zero, so that we can try to target either Typhoid Mary or Red Skull on turn 5 with the Zero, so that ability is canceled out. And so we will go ahead and eat this lane. We will drop Zero in the only lane that we can, and then we'll lock that in. And so next turn, if we draw into Red Skull, that's perfect. Otherwise, we will drop our Typhoid Mary. He will be zeroed out, and so he will be a higher cost card or a higher power card. And then we can, on turn 6, drop a Taskmaster and then our Sabretooth. So they discard their Apocalypse a few times here, but I think we still go with the same play line. We could drop Taskmaster. Oh, no, we couldn't. Zero would target it. So we can drop our Typhoid Mary. We don't want to drop our Sabretooth this turn. We want to hold off because we want Taskmaster to copy the 10 power instead of the 5 power of Sabretooth here. So they do cap out their Hellfire Club location. So what does it change to? Wakanda, so cards can't be destroyed there. And then they drop a Swarm. Okay, and so they have left in their hand Apocalypse is all they have left. And so they could either move Nightcrawler out. How many times was their Apocalypse discarded? I think just the 1 time. So it's a 12 power Apocalypse. And so looking at this, we have 10 power here. We already win this lane. We could do 10 more. We can do 15, which makes us 20. That's not enough to win if they move this over. But if they move it over and decide to push for this one, that's just 4 power. That puts them at 7, and then we win this lane. The only way we potentially lose is if they drop a discard card that has a lot of power. I think this gives us the highest chance to win, though. In that, if they move their Nightcrawler out and drop Apocalypse here, they win this one, but that's okay because we have enough power in Los Diablos base. And so they do move Nightcrawler over. Oh no, I didn't anticipate that. What are they doing? And so we do come up over their power level in the ruins. I didn't think about that play line. And so we do still lock down ruins. We lock down Wakanda, and we do lock down this video. I'll see myself out, guys. And so with that win, we are going to go ahead and end the video here. That's about game 10 with 7 of them being wins, a few of them being bots where we just retreated. But this deck list performs pretty well. There's a lot of avenues and a lot of routes to get to that high power play of a Taskmaster, of a late game Venom, of an Enchantress if you need to. So if you already have some pretty high power on the board, you can drop a sneaky Enchantress to cancel out their Iron Man, cancel out their Mystique. A lot of cool utility in this deck list, but overall it felt very, very fun to play. It felt pretty strong. I think I'll keep playing around with this deck list for a while off video, and just kind of keep seeing how high I can climb, because it does feel like this one is going to be the most consistent with a high level of power output. With that, I am going to go ahead and end the video here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like down below, leave a comment. I appreciate each and every one of you for coming back and watching the videos time and time again. I appreciate all of the comments. I love interacting with you guys, and just trying to keep up with the comments at this point is somewhat of a game for me as well. Just trying to keep current on all of the comments as they come in. And so if you enjoyed the video, please make sure you leave it a like. I am going to go ahead and end the video here. This has been TLSG. Later, guys.